on Pharaoh's tomb. He hollers from the boy in the room.
All right, well, welcome back to another edition of...
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
We may have wanted to put a little...
Sorry, I blindsided you with that one. Sorry.
That was awesome. That was awesome. I am going to hear about it from a couple of people who have told me before about the swearing. So that being said, we are back, and this is this is our special edition. We got roasted for this last year, so I am really looking forward to what happens this year. We did our preview, and did it blow up at the end? Absolutely, it did. Now we did lay out the fact that it could blow up. So in this case, this is different. We are live inside BBI. John and Eric, John McDevitt, with always senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy, who's clearly in a good holiday weekend mood. How you doing, my friend?
Good. I got my sweatshirt on because I have the windows open here in the basement. It's cold here. I'm in Virginia, and it's like 50-something degrees outside. At least it was this morning, and it's a little nippy. So fall's right around the corner. Football weather. So good college games yesterday too. So.
Yeah, I'm inside BBI sweatshirt. I threw that on there. I will say it's a little chilly only because for some reason the AC upstairs really blows really cold upstairs, especially in my office. So that's why. But it's pretty warm outside here in South Carolina. But that being said, all right. So yeah, let's real quick talk about yesterday the college football. Now we had a couple people last week after the episode was live, which thanks by the way. Like last I checked between the show itself and when I threw it on. I think I threw it on Spotify. I'm pretty sure I did. We had well over 2,800 views of that video, which is awesome. And then if I include the other stuff, we were way over 3,000. So great. Thanks to Cy for coming on. That was great. College football yesterday, all the talk leading into it was Arch Manning. I'm not going to bash on Arch Manning, but that definitely was a little bit of a letdown for those folks who were ready to anoint him the #1 draft pick in 26.
Yeah, again, and he may end up being a fantastic player. Most people think he was, but I thought all along that this was getting crazy. So if you looked at all the early draft stuff, they had him ranked as a #1 player, and I'm like, well, he hasn't even really played. He has 95 attempts before yesterday's game, and yesterday he wasn't good. So people are going to make excuses about the play calling and all that, and I get that too. But he missed short throws on. Like even on the last drive, there was a huge miss by him with a guy wide open
coming across,
and he missed that, and that was a bad play. So, but there were two games I watched yesterday that were filled with guys that the Giants will be interested in, and the back that up, Joe Shane was at both of those games. He was at the game that you're talking about. Then he was at Clemson LSU later on in the evening, and there were a ton of players on both those rosters where it's like, oh my, I could if we came out of the draft with players just from those four teams, I'd be thrilled. That's how good the prospects were in those games last night. So that's what I was watching.
Excellent. Now, for those of you who have said stop talking about the draft, it's too early, season just started. You're right. This show is all about this year, the NFL and the Giants. So where would you like to kick it off first? You want to go across the league first, or do we want to start with the Giants before we can even just not necessarily give a record or where we think they'll finish, but maybe just kind of an outlook.
We should start off with the Giants, don't you think?
Right. I think so. I'm good with that. So I'm going to let you start first then, kind of just some overall thoughts on the season, because you've come in, you and I have differed on this. You've come in, strength of schedule, Giant schedule is brutal, and I've been very anti that piece of it. So I'm going to let you start first with your thoughts, the schedule, the Giants, where they're at, and where we're heading into the season.
I think the team's clearly headed upward. I, unlike you, think that we're getting blindsided, or whatever word you want to use, by this schedule. So I wish we had a different schedule because I think the team's going to be better than its final record's going to be. And I hope they're competitive in all of these games. I expect them to be way more competitive in these games, but the schedule is brutal. Now, the Giants did get a little bit of a blessing with the Micah Parsons trade. So one of the problems with the current regime, for whatever reason, is their record against the NFC East. And Dable has not beaten Dallas yet, which is absurd when you consider the fact, again, Cooper Rush has played 2 of those 6 games, is starting the court. But Micah Parsons being out of Dallas, I don't care what you think long term, short term, that makes Dallas a much worse football team. And combine that with the fact we don't know if Andrew Thomas is going to be ready early in the season, and now you don't have to worry about Micah Parsons on James Hudson in week 2. So that Micah Parsons trade does help us. But the way I view this is this, and I hate saying this because I've always argued opposite of this. I think the Giants have to win these first 2 games to have a serious shot at being in the mix for a wild card, or just being mentioned as a possible playoff contender past Halloween. I think the Giants have to upset Washington, and they're going to have to upset Dallas to even have a shot at staying in this. If they lose both those 2 games, it could get ugly again. So to me, we got to come out on all cylinders in those first 2 games.
I agree with you on, if you just look at the schedule based on last year, record last year for the teams that we played. That's why it's called strength of schedule.
Right.
But it's also last year. It has zero bearing on where those teams are this year. Some of them are going to be good. Some of them are going to be a little less than they were before. Some are going to surprise, that have worse records are going to surprise. And some are going to be very surprising in the other direction. Now, what I like to look at is more like this. So I threw this really quickly together, so don't make fun of how ugly it is, because I know that it is. The schedule is on the left-hand side for the Giants. Where the X is, that's the schedule for them. The games before and the games after are the teams that we are playing that week, who they played the week before, and then who they play the week after. Very early in the season, it's kind of important to look at. The Commanders have that game with us. There's no previous game.
Right.
They play 4 days later. They play the Green Bay Packers, who now have Micah Parsons. If you're Washington, you've got 2 games in the span of 11 days. Are you focused solely on the New York Giants as you roll into the first week, or are you already kind of looking ahead? Could play a role here. I'm just saying they have a much bigger game 4 days after the game with the Giants. Dallas, on the other hand, opens a big-time game in Philadelphia. If they get slaughtered in that game, and you got to bet there's some nastiness in the locker room already, not happy about the fact that Micah Parsons got traded, and maybe there's a little disgruntled piece. They turn around, they have to travel to Chicago. Not that big of a deal. The following week, we get Kansas City at home. Kansas City is cementing us, is putting us right in the middle, sandwiching us between their game at Philadelphia, and then the following week they play Baltimore. They play the Eagles and the Ravens, and we're in the middle of that piece. They're going to be missing Rashee Rice. It's all about who you play when you play them and who they're playing. The Giants are not going to be circled on any one of these pieces all the way through by that other team going, at least early. Who knows how the season goes, right? If the Giants are 5-0, suddenly other teams are going to be circling them going, oh, shit, we got to beat the Giants. I'm not saying they're going to be 5-0, by the way, before anybody jumps on me. What I'm saying is, for the beginning, these other teams have much bigger games that they're going to be playing both before and after they play the Giants. The Giants are not being circled. They're not the team that people go, I can't wait to beat them. In fact, some of them probably put a check mark going, we got that game, we got that game,
sure.
We got that game. So if you look at it, I mean, look at where some of these guys are. The Chargers, they play the Broncos the week before us. They come out, it's a 1:00 game on the East Coast. They turn around and play Washington the following week. Are we the big game circled in the middle there? I doubt it. So if you look all the way through, there is a number of areas where the teams that we're playing, they have much bigger. Now, does that apply for us too? Of course it does. But the problem with us is, like I said, nobody cares about the Giants right at the moment other than Giants fans. So I'm thinking, like you just said, really important, those first 2 games. The Giants have to be, they got to at least be 1-1. Would you agree? It got to be 1-1 at worst after the first 2 games in order to even really start to say, okay, we've got a shot to win some other games later. If they come out 0-2, even if the games are close, all it does is cement that continual piece of they can't beat anybody.
1-1 to do what's your ultimate goal? What is your goal?
Well, It depends on where you're going with this. Now, I think Dayball's ultimate goal is he's got to win as many games as he can. But you believe, and I think I agree with you now, that he's bought himself at least another year because of Dart. But if you lose a lot, you're going to have to play Dart early, and that could be very detrimental to where you ultimately want to go. You don't want to play him early if you're a losing team. If things are going badly, that's bad. I think their ultimate goal for me is you're looking to get into the 7 to 9 win category. A couple things roll your way, you're at 9. They don't, you finished at 7, but that is a major change from the year before.
So you're saying in order to get to the 7 to 9 win, they have to start 1-1.
I would think so. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my question is, do they have to start 2-0? So I don't.
2-0 changes the landscape quite a bit.
Look, you have made really good points about when our opponents are playing other major teams, but I hate it sounds like trying to find a rationale to say the schedule doesn't matter. And so I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you, but in a way you're also admitting, man, this schedule's a bitch. And it's a bitch. I mean, the stretch is, people keep talking about the start of the schedule being the problem. I don't think the start is the problem. I think the stretch where it's Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, and 49ers. I mean, the 49ers could be a big rebound team this year. Well, to me, they're kind of a mystery team. But originally, I mean, the Bears look much better again this preseason. We'll have to see. But now the Packers with Micah Parsons and the Lions. I mean, so this is I think that one of the easier parts, I shouldn't say easy, is the beginning of the schedule, because Dallas in week 2. Then it depends on what you think of Washington. I didn't see a lot of the Commanders this preseason, but I did see some of them. And Jaden Daniels still looks like Jaden Daniels. So we better be ready for that. But if we can pull off an upset in Washington, a game that you will be at, if we can pull up an upset in Dallas, again, another game that you will be at, and we're at 2-0, then I think a 7 to 9 win season is very much on the table. If we don't win either of those games, then I think I have a hard time trying to find out where the wins are coming from in the schedule. You're looking like, again, you're hoping that maybe, the Saints, obviously, but you're hoping that, the Patriots game, but the Patriots are going to be better too. And you're hoping to sweep, maybe get the Cowboys later again, and maybe Washington later again. So I think these first 2 games are critical. And I'm in the previous years, I've always been one of those people that says, don't overreact to week 1. But I think week 1 is going to be huge. If we go into Washington, we get smoked, that's going to be terrible. We got to at least be competitive, but I think we got to win that game.
So I'll take what you just said a second ago, and I'm going to turn it back the other way.
Right.
If you believe in strength of schedule, then me showing who they're playing is super important, because that means their schedule is just as important as the Giants' schedule. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, for me, I'm saying those other teams don't look at us. When they look and they go, hey, look, our schedule is only this because we get to play the Giants and we're playing the Patriots.
Right.
They're putting check marks by those teams.
But they may be right, John. I mean,
they could be. That's not
my point.
But that's not but see, you can't argue that. What I'm saying is, those teams aren't looking at their schedule going, man, we got really tough games with the Giants, whatever. They're looking at it going, boom. Every game to the Giants is important. Why? Because we won 3. We won 3 games. There's nobody. You could give me the Carolina Panthers again. Guess what? We lost to them last year. We've got to beat them. So strength of schedule means nothing to me. Where they play is super important, and stretches that they go on. Now, you mentioned the stretch where the Giants. This is why I think 2-0 for you would be huge, because that stretch you talked about right in the middle. But I'm thinking some of these other teams, they've got a pretty big stretch to start the season off. Some of them are playing, they're playoff teams playing other playoff teams. The Giants aren't a playoff team. So no matter who they play, technically they're playing teams that are going to be better, more than likely. I mean, find me a few games that they have against teams that had a worse record than they had. So that's what I'm saying is those stretches. Now, some of these teams are going to beat each other up pretty badly. They're going to be going after, especially if you can get non-divisional games sandwiched in between two of the teams playing other divisional rivals. That's great for us because we're the one-off for them. They're loaded up to win their division games. those first 2 games are important because I think it changes the entire landscape of the way things go. If you're right and the Giants win 2, first off, that's 1/3 of their divisional games.
Right.
Right?
It's huge.
And they've been horrible in
How
division.
many divisional games did the Giants win last year?
None, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, what do we win? 1 or 2 the year before? Like,
Yeah, we don't. So you got to win your divisional games. That's
now Dallas, on the other hand, right? Think of it this way too. If the Giants beat Washington in the first week and the Giants turn around and beat Dallas, I'd have to go back and look. Do you remember who's Washington's game the following week?
Oh, I don't have the schedules in front of me. Yeah.
So
you got your chart though.
I do. I could bring it back up. Yeah, true.
Bring
That's
your chart
true.
back up.
Let's
So you're
look
well
at.
prepared.
I was prepared. Washington. Well, they have Green Bay on Thursday, so that's right. I already said that. So they have Green Bay on Thursday. They could be 0-2 in the conference, 0-1 in the division. Dallas would be 0-2 if they lost to the Giants and to the Eagles starting the season off. Already, you've now flipped the divisional piece very early on if the Giants can maintain. And those are 2 road games.
But you're repeating yourself, and I get your argument. But again, the
I'm using your 2-0.
The counter argument is these teams, and this is what we're going to talk about. These teams might be able to beat the Giants with one hand behind their back. We're hoping
but
that's
I'm
not
using
the case
your
anymore.
So I'm using your 2-0 where they had to go 2-0. So what I'm saying is, if they do your thing, that actually flips the division completely in terms of as you go, because now the Giants have 2 divisional wins and
on the road,
and more than likely. Does anybody see Dallas beating Philadelphia Thursday night with the way things are going right now? I mean, that would be a huge upset if Dallas beats Philadelphia.
I expect Dallas to get smoked in that game.
Agreed.
I think Dallas gets smoked in that game. So I think the schedule starts off well with the Giants in 2 ways. I prefer playing on the road to start because I don't want the Boo Birds to come out immediately and get on the team. And you talked about that in the previous podcast, or Cy did, or somebody did. But I think it actually works out to the Giants' advantage that if the Giants happen to go 3 and out, people start getting restless in the stands. We don't hear that. So I think starting on the road is a good thing for them. And I also think we might surprise some teams early with our offense and defense because of the changes at quarterback and because of what we've done on defense in the offseason. So I kind of like starting off with division games, and I kind of like starting off on the road. But if we go 0-2, that's a huge hole in the division. Again, that'd be 2 losses in the division.
Yes, that's bad. That's very bad.
But if we go 2-0, we already have 2 road wins in the division already in the hand. That's huge. That's why this start, to me, is almost everything in terms of the psychology of this team. Now, could the Giants lose those games and then get upsets later on? That can always happen. There's that famous Bill Parcells quote that you win a game, if you win a game that no one expects you to win down the stretch, that can make up for something that you were supposed to win earlier in the season. But I feel like this team needs. I think this team is because of the preseason and because of the players they brought in, like Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter and the other players, that they and the way they played in the preseason, they're feeling pretty good about themselves right now. They feel pretty confident. I think they have to keep that going a little bit early on to build on that. I don't want them to immediately get killed and then lose all that confidence at the game. So I think that's so the real question is we're dancing all around the schedule. The real question is, how good are the Giants this year? Are the Giants, was the preseason a mirage, or is the preseason the canary in the coal mine? It shows us, hey, this team might be better than it really is. I'm going to have bipolar Eric here because in the preseason, I'm always usually very optimistic. And I've always been like this with the website, if people have picked up on this. In the offseason, I'm always very, very, very optimistic because it's spring. The draft is always cool. The free agency is always cool. You want to have high hopes. But then I get into my battle mode once we get into September, and I look at every opponent and I get like, take everybody seriously. I don't care if we're playing the Saints and we're going down there and we'd already say we were, what is it? Is Saints number 5? Saints are 5, right? That we play 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're the 5th game.
By some
miracle we're 4-0. You'll hear me worrying and boning about the Saints in week 5 if somehow we were 4-0, because that's just how I am once the season starts. I'm like one of those guys that says, don't take anything for granted. Everybody's a threat. I don't care if we're up 17 points in the fourth quarter. The game's not over. That's how I am. And right now, that's how I am right now. So people listening right now are going, why are you sounding more pessimistic now? Because I'm in battle mode. Eric's in bed. Everyone's a threat. Everything you got to take very seriously. In Washington, I look at their roster and I still marvel at how they went from what they were into what they are now just because of the change at quarterback. And I know they have other players. I know their offensive line has played better, and they got a running game, and they got Terry McLaurin, and I get it. But that team was garbage, and a team that we would beat when we were garbage, and they get that quarterback, and it changes everything. And that quarterback, that's why Washington's dangerous. And so people looking at Washington's roster still look, hey, this team really isn't that great. But it shows you what an elite quarterback can do for you. It just the number one rusher in Washington is the quarterback. So he's not just the throwing threat; he's the running threat. So the question to you, John, and I think I know where you're going to go with this, is how good do you think the Giants are?
Well, that's a tough one. It really comes down to Russell Wilson and how well he can play. The sooner that it looks like the wheels are coming off him, even if they win, if they win 17-16 and and the offense could have put up 30 if we just got a couple of plays and he's taken some sacks he shouldn't have taken or whatever, and our defense is playing lights out, Jackson Dart's going to get in much sooner, and we're going to make that change and go forward. I actually think, though, put it this way. I'm going to go in between the two numbers that I said. I'm kind of leaning towards 8, but I'm really thinking they could squeak it to 9. This team does remind me of 84. I keep saying it. There's a lot of parallels to that 84 season, and you're starting to see it the way that they're designed, and really also who else is out there and some of the things that they are facing. This team, I think, is going to be under the radar for a lot of people. Why? They weren't as bad as their record said they were last year. They actually have some better players. They just it just went off the rails very quickly. But if you go back and look, Washington game, we should have won that game. They should have won that game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why we should have won that game. The third of the reasons why is the damn kicker issue right before the game started. But there are a number of reasons why they should have won that game before that.
Right.
Dallas, Cincinnati, both games at home. One team, a high-powered offense. Cincinnati put up over 30 against multiple teams, including Washington, including Philadelphia. They barely put up 17 on us in that game, of which one of them was a 50-some-odd yard run by Joe Burrow. The Giants' offense could do absolutely nothing. If you replace Daniel Jones last year with Russell Wilson, we're at least 3 or 4 more wins than what we had. That doesn't sound great in the overall scheme. It's not the Super Bowl, but that just tells you what a finite difference it is between being really, really bad and being right in the middle of the pack for maybe potential wildcard teams. I think they're way better there. Injuries are going to dictate a lot, but I'm thinking this team's going to surprise a lot of people. I'm looking at least 8 wins.
So you see 8 wins even with a quarterback switch?
I'm seeing 8 wins, and I'm assuming there won't be one. But I'm assuming 8 wins regardless of whether we do this. At some point, Jackson Dart's going to be the guy, whether it's this year or next year. And quite frankly, I don't have a problem with it if we do it in the middle of the season, if the offense isn't getting it done, because I think our defense is going to be that good. If we can stay in games, if we don't allow teams just to gash us on the ground, I know that's your big worry. If we don't allow them to gash us on the ground early and they've got to pass, there's a lot of teams that are going to be dealing with hell, because the Giants are going to be able to bring pressure from whatever side of the field they want to do it on, whether it's up the middle, whether it's from the outside, whether they drop back and bring other people. They're going to be able to play schematically up front in a way that dictates terms on the field. The Giants have been the recipient of everything on the field. You're always reacting to whatever the offense does. We're going to be able to dictate to other teams what you can do and can't do. If you get into down and distance, we're going after your quarterback.
Right. And we're not ignoring you guys in the comment section. We'll get to this, get to you guys too. So I just want to let you know, just keep that up. So if you see 8 wins, you're feeling like we've got to sweep Dallas, right?
Yes.
and we've never beaten Dallas under Brian Dable. So that's got to
Correct.
change. That's got to change.
Correct.
That's got to they got to flip that. And again, remember, I keep bringing up Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
And so Micah's not there anymore. The Dallas defense is going to have issues without him, I think. They still got some talent in the secondary, but we should be able. I think you hit the nail on the head. Russell Wilson is going to be gigantic in determining what kind of season the Giants have. If he can be better than what he was in Denver, and he can be better than what he was in Pittsburgh, and the narrative is out there by most people in the national media is that he's at the end of the line. You're not going to get a better version of him than in Pittsburgh. He is who he is right now. I think, right or wrong, Russell Wilson thinks that he was on a tight leash in Pittsburgh, and that he's got something to prove. And I think he likes being under Brian Dable. I think ideally he would like to have some better weapons outside, but I think he's capable of being better than he was last year in Pittsburgh. The question is, can he be better than Pittsburgh? Because the Giants need him to play as well, at least as well or better than Dak Prescott. And he can't be light years away from Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels for the Giants to be competitive. He's got to be a decent quarterback this year. If he is a decent quarterback, I think they can win 7 games, 8 games, maybe. But if he's not good and they have to switch to Jackson's going to go through his growing pains. And that's where I'm like, we're going to maybe get 5 or 6 wins at that point. So I think a lot of it comes down to Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson plays well, moonballs the Malik Neighbors, moonballs the Slaytons, gets Theo Johnson involved in the offense. We don't know what's going on with Theo Johnson. Hopefully he's practicing this week. No one can tell us what's going on with Theo. But if Theo Johnson's we get the running game going. Tyrone Tracy doesn't fumble the football. I think the defense is good enough to keep us in football games if they can stop the run, which is we'll get into that too. So I think the Giants are a way better team. I still think this league is quarterback driven, and they need Russell Wilson to play at a better level than he did in Pittsburgh. That's where I am right now. Sure. I think he's capable of it, but we might be sitting here going, you and I might be having this conversation right before the Saints game going, it's Jackson Dart time too. It could go either way. It could go, wow, he's playing really well, keep him in there. Or, you know what are we doing? We're 1-3 and this isn't working. Let's just pull the plug now. That's where we might be. I think a lot of people think Jackson might be inserted after the bye. I think he could be earlier, depending on how these first 4 games go.
I think yes, I agree. First, let's go back to Pittsburgh real quick. There's a lot to unpack if you look at the Steelers. One, they went into last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for whatever particular reason. And it wasn't until Fields got he was playing quite a bit. I think Russell had a calf injury early on.
He was hurt.
And that kind of put him back. Arthur Smith runs that offense, and it's a very run-driven offense. Pittsburgh did not do well at all. Their best receiver they got rid of in the offseason to send him to Dallas. They bring in DK Metcalf. They get Aaron Rodgers. They've gone all in. Pittsburgh has done a complete 180 on their normal way of looking into each season. They've bought into trying to win now, and I believe they know they have a very finite amount of time to win. And I think Tomlin is on the final ends of him being there too. So I think they know that. Russell Wilson, I'm not making excuses for him last year. Didn't look super great. In fact, let's be honest. You played that beautiful montage intro last year after the Steelers game with the Titanic song played with, I believe, was it a harmonica or a kazoo?
It was,
just absolutely bad. It was so bad. And it was a kazoo. It was so bad at what we saw in that game, yet we were in that game. We were in that game multiple times. Russell did not play spectacularly well.
He had a really good, pretty deep ball against us.
He did on those things. The difference, I think, here is you are playing for a guy who, in theory, is an offensive-minded guy. He was able to scheme in 22 a way to make Daniel Jones look far more effective than he really was. This is a different team. He's not scheming, running Russell around. That's not going to happen. We now have the ability to throw the ball deep. The offensive line has to play well. It's an interesting piece with him, but the Jackson Dart piece is going to be sitting there. Now, could he come in and play? Listen, we've seen it with other teams, right? Jaden Daniels is a perfect example. He comes in, lights the world on fire. Drake May gets his time, not as much. It does require talent around you to really be able to take off as a rookie quarterback. And I actually think the Giants have talent around Jackson Dart. I think Wilson's going to start and play. Offensive points are going to be huge. The Giants have averaged, like, I believe 16-1 last year, but that included 41 against the Colts. If you took it off, we were down around 14 and change. 13, 15, whatever. It doesn't matter. Those
We're
are
at the bottom of the league the last 2 years.
Horrifyingly bad. They've got to average, I would think, 20 to 21 points per game, maybe 22, we've really improved.
If they get a jump like that, which is still not great, that would be huge for them.
Right.
Because then the pass rush kicks in. So a lot of and this sounds like excuse making on the part of Dable, but when you think about it, it really isn't. And that when the other team thinks that you can't score, they will be more patient and more persistent with the run. They will keep running the ball on you because it's safer and they don't fear you. And so part of the reason the Giants' run defense has been bad is the other team just keeps at it. They just keep running and they've had leads. And when you have a lead, you run the ball too.
And you're continually putting your defense back on the field.
So the Giants, it wasn't just the Giants weren't scoring; they weren't maintaining any drives. So if the Giants can maintain, this is the big thing with Russell Wilson is this: he's been very hit or miss. So he can get the deep ball and get those chunk plays, but can he sustain a 10-play drive and move the team down the field with, it's 3rd and 8 and he throws a 10-yard pass over the middle, and then it's a 2nd and 7 and he throws a 15-yard pass? Can he keep those kinds of things? We know he can do the moon ball stuff and get the chunk plays. He's got to show that he can move the team down the field. But if he can move the team down the field, the Giants can get some points on the board and the defense can get a lead. Then the pass rush kicks in and the other team has to be like, you know what? We have to throw the football. And then what we want to see is this: sack, hit, fumble, defender picks up the ball, scores. Or Abdul Carter's flying in, the guy throws the ball up for grabs, Javon Holland picks off the pass and is running the other way. That we had 5 interceptions last year. That contributed to the mess too. And again, it's amazing how much pressure the Giants actually had on the quarterback last year. I didn't realize this. When you look at the stats, it wasn't just the sacks, it was the pressures when we didn't have a lead. So Kayvon and Brian Burns, who played hurt, and Kayvon, who missed games again because he was hurt, they were actually better than we thought they were last year, given the situation. And now they have Abdul Carter. Hopefully Dexter Lawrence is near full strength. We got Roy Robertson Harris now. You got Chauncey Golston. And so, but you got to get stop the run, and hopefully the game's close or you've got a lead and the other team has to start being aggressive. And then you can get to them. So that's where I'm just hoping we can get to see our cool toys. You know what I mean? Because I want to get I want to have a 10-point lead and then have those 3 guys on the field together and then chasing after Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts is another shows you how good, if you've got a great offensive line, you got great talent all around you. I think Jalen Hurts is both underrated and overrated. I know that sounds
sure. I know what you're saying,
but he. I think if you put him on a much less team, he doesn't look like he is. But he plays well when he has the tools that he has. So, and then again at Philadelphia, we'll talk about the division. Philadelphia is a little bit of a different team. They lost their coordinator. They lost some players in free agency, but they're still they're a loaded team. What do you have in Washington? Does some people like you think Washington's primed to come back down? Do they? But they were in the NFC Championship game last year. Was that a fluke? Because if not a fluke, that's a problem. But if it's a fluke, then do the Giants have a legitimate chance to challenge Washington for second place in the division? And then what do you have in Dallas? I think a lot of us are thinking Dallas might now be a fourth place team in the division, but the Giants better beat them. The Giants are going to be the fourth place in the division.
I mean, if you look at last year, right? If you had Detroit and Washington play 10 times, how many times would you have had Detroit losing? 3?
Yeah.
2? It just happened to be that game. Detroit's a much better team. Overall, they're a much better, deeper team. And they were home and they lost. It happens. I think, first off, Washington had a few games last year that they should not have won. I mean, one of them, the Chicago one, the miraculous, that was so unbelievably ridiculous for the
It was.
The Bears coaching
defensive back, like looking up into
he's
the
like
stand.
celebrating. I'm like, you do know there's still a
I've
play
never
to
seen that
happen.
in my life. What are you doing?
The entire Bears coaching staff should have been
You
fired.
complain
before
about
they even got to
Deontay
play.
Banks. Can you imagine if a Giant player had done that?
Seriously, like I would have fired the entire staff before they got to the plane. I would have let everybody know every single one of you are fired for what just happened. Your players are so undisciplined. That was ridiculous. So, but I don't want to say things like that and say Washington is overrated. I'm not saying that, but they were lucky. There was a few things that worked in their favor last year, and that you have to have that, right? Luck plays a huge deal. Go back and look at Big Blue VCR on X shared Matt in New York shared a video of the leading into the 86 season where I believe it was the HBO Inside the NFL was doing a preview. Mm-hmm. And they were talking to different players. And I believe it was Chris Godfrey for the Giants, offensive guard, if you don't remember. Chris Godfrey was saying, look, yeah, we're a good team. We could go a long ways, but a lot of things have to happen, right? You got to get the bounces. You got to stay healthy. Those are things we won't know until you get into the season. There is so much truth to that. Washington got unbelievably lucky in a couple of areas. I mean, it was just amazing that it worked out the way that it did. They won some games like against Cincinnati. Cincinnati threw up well over 30 points and lost the game. You had things that worked in your favor, and it led you to get to the championship game. Do I think there's going to be a regression? Possibly. I think Dallas is definitely going to regress, and I think Philadelphia is going to come back to the pack slightly. One, you're coming off a Super Bowl season. There's a lot that happens. These off seasons are a lot shorter than they used to be, especially when you win. And they've had a few injuries here and there, so you got to expect the ball's not just going to bounce their way every single time. So, right. And they've got competition. So the Giants are ripe for a move forward with some of these other teams. And a guy like Russell Wilson brings you experience. He brings you that he's been there. He's done that. A calming force. Jameis Winston's the joker in the locker room. That's going to get everybody to be like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Because here's a guy who's had to do that to himself numerous times. Interception 5. Don't worry about it. I'll throw touchdown number 4 in a minute. He's going to keep the team kind of loose. He's going to be that jokester that keeps them loose. So, right. There's things that have to happen across the league that changes everything. It does every year. But I think in our division, I think Washington's still good. But there's some things about Washington that I would be, if I'm a Washington fan, I'm a little concerned about.
Well, their defense, you got to wonder what their defense is like.
A little thin. Their running game is, you got rid of Brian Robinson. So now you've got Eckler.
They love that rookie. They love the rookie they got.
But rookies are all great, and that's fine. But if your running game is really predicated on the fact that Jaden Daniels can run. Right. And if something happens to Daniels, that team's in big trouble. Like, even if he just misses a couple of games.
Oh God. Yeah. He's the team. That's what I was saying.
Yes.
He's the team. And people wondered, but it hasn't been the case so far. They looked at his frame, and there were people I remember before the draft saying, I love Jaden Daniels, but he will not survive the NFL because he's not big enough. Now, again, it's only been one season, and I'm not rooting for him to get hurt, but when you look at him, he's really small. He's a thin guy. But to date, it hasn't been a problem for him. But yeah, if he gets nicked up, if they lose him for 4 games or whatever, it changes everything. So the Giants are going to have to go in that game, and I'm going to write my preview this week, but they're going to have to go into that game. And this game is going to be, to my mind, this game is gigantic. If we're sitting here and the Giants are 1-0 after week 1, to me, that's a big deal. If they're 0-1, I'm going to be like, shit. And they've got to keep Jaden Daniels from beating them on the ground. They've got to keep they got to get after him, but they've got to be very disciplined on their pass rush. And I almost wonder if like Abdul Carter is going to kind of be sort of half spy in the game. So because he's so fast that he's one of the few guys on the field that can chase Jaden. So I wonder if so when you play a mobile quarterback, you and I've made this point for years and years and years, you almost don't want your pass rush to be full bore. You got to sort of be very disciplined and make sure he doesn't get out. So you don't want like Kayvon and Brian to go crazy, because if they miss and Jaden gets around them, that's a big problem. And so I wonder if like people who are going, oh, I can't wait to see Abdul Carter. And then after week one, people are, even if the Giants win, they're like, man, Abdul Carter didn't do anything. Abdul Carter's role in this game might be kind of a spy in a way. So if he starts running to the left, chase him to the left. He starts running to the right, chase him to the right. And don't let him, it's 3rd and 8, don't let him scramble for a first down. And that's kind of what killed the Giants. You said there were a lot of things that killed the Giants in that first game. And one of it was Washington being able to sustain those drives.
Sure.
And it wasn't just passing. It was him running for first downs.
For those who are too young to remember,
Cunningham.
When Randall Cunningham would come into the game, the Giants moved LT lots of times, and he played the middle. He spied him and ran with him. LT made a great tackle. I want to say it was 1988. Could have been the 87 season. It was 1988. He stops Cunningham, who scrambles and was going to pick up a first down, stops him short. LT tears his hamstring while chasing him down and keeping him, preventing him from getting there. But they played him in the middle to allow him, and he didn't rush. He kind of stood there and he would mirror wherever he would go.
That's what I'm envisioning with Abdul. Yeah.
And I think it's more, the following week against Dak, I'm sending Abdul Carter. Dak's not going to run. Daniel's going to run. It's going to be a much different game plan. But I'm with you. And I also don't think Washington's offensive line is not super dominating. Now, I had one disagreement with Cy the other day where he wanted to see Dexter Lawrence be on the field less sometimes in the beginning and really wants him to see part of the pass rush. I don't really care if Dexter Lawrence is part of the pass rush or not. I want him owning first and second down. Dexter Lawrence is going to just occupy guys. He needs to be the bulk of our run game. We can pull him out if we need to give him rest, to bring guys in who can rush the passer. I don't need Dexter Lawrence playing a lot of pass rush. He can, and I'm not saying don't do it, but he is the linchpin of the early downs. I want Dexter Lawrence owning the middle of that line in early downs. That way he can rest later. But I do agree with you. I think people are going to overreact because I think Abdul Carter is going to spy a lot. I think that's exactly what the Giants are going to do with him, because that's how you get those three guys on the field at the same time.
Yeah. And we probably shouldn't get too much into Washington because that's going to be our next game. So, and there's some injury issues with Washington up front too. That could help us in that game. All right. But so get back to this season. So I'm leaning towards, I think Cy said the same thing. I'm leaning towards 7 wins because I'm trying to be realistic about this. To me, the worst case scenario is like 3 wins again.
Well, it
would help us if that happens. But the schedule's a bitch. I look at the schedule and I'm like, we're going to have to steal some wins from some people. Like we're going to have to can we beat the Eagles? Can we upset the Eagles in one of those games? That would be fantastic if we could upset the Eagles. That would change a lot of things. Can you imagine, for instance, if we beat the Commanders and Cowboys at the start of the season, and then at some point, that 3-game stretch, we steal one of those Eagle games, then we'd be 3-1 in the division. That would be huge.
So the Eagles, we play the Eagles after we play the Saints. In that week, the previous week, Philadelphia plays Denver. They follow that game with Minnesota. 2 weeks later, we play the Eagles again. So Philadelphia comes off Minnesota, but then they're on their bye. That second game at Philadelphia is going to be the tougher one because Philadelphia is going to get a break after that game.
Yeah,
the Giants have to win their home game.
We'd almost have to win the Thursday game.
I agree.
I'm not expecting us to beat the Eagles, but boy, it would be big.
At all?
We have to steal a win or two from somebody on this schedule. Going into Denver, that looks like a nightmare. But what's funny is that John Elway never beat the Giants. Did you know that? In his career,
I didn't know he never did. I knew we beat him.
He never beat Tommy Maddox beat the Giants as Denver's quarterback, but but
Tommy Maddox beat the Giants as a Giants quarterback.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So you want to talk?
Well, let's talk right now. So let's lay the division out real quick. Let's start.
Yeah.
Let's start with the NFC. NFC East. I'm assuming you're going with Philadelphia.
You got to.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
You got to.
That's who I have too. All
the
right.
question is, do the Eagles repeat?
Well, let's worry about that later. Let's go division.
Okay.
Let's go with divisions. NFC North.
Let me bring up. Well, you do your predictions.
All right, so I'm gonna
you're all into the predictions. Me, I'm like I don't.
Well, I like playing the game. It's fun. It's fun, and I've looked at it.
It's not fun because because if we get it right, no one's going to remember. If we get it wrong, someone's going to come back and go,
that's fun.
Oh, you're the ones who thought the Saints were going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, listen, if you put money on anything that I'm going to say right now, that's just on you. But I'm going to go with Detroit. Detroit has been snake bitten. They're a team that has been so damn close. So close. And quite frankly, that window is going to start to close on them if they don't do something soon. Like they've got a lot of big contracts with a bunch of guys. They've got to pull it off. I do think Detroit may need to make a deal before the trading deadline to bring in another defensive talent to really put them over the top. So keep an eye on teams that are starting to play pretty poorly that might want to get rid of a guy because Detroit might be in a buy market. But I'm going to go with Detroit to win the North. But that was a tough one because Green Bay is they're loading up.
Well, the problem for Detroit is they lost their offensive coordinator. They didn't lose their defensive coordinator, did they? They just their
They did. Aaron Glenn is
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So they lost both their coordinators. Now, for Philadelphia that worked, but normally that doesn't work. One of the biggest things Philadelphia did was get Vic Fangio. That was gigantic. I mean, how much better would we feel if Vic Fangio was the Giants defensive coordinator? We'd feel way, way better.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, let me pull up. So what I worry about with the Lions is this, and I have friends who are Lions fans. I'm in the wrong conference here. What I worry about with the Lions is the coaching that they've lost. So I think the Bears loaded up, but I have a hard time still. Caleb's got to prove it to me that he's still.
Yeah, I can't buy into them.
I can't buy into that yet. The question with the Packers is the quarterback, but if the quarterback is playing well, they're loaded. Everyone's going to pick the Lions. Let me ask you this. What do you think of their Lions head coach? Do you think he's a product of their coordinators, or do you think he's the real deal?
I think he's a guy who inspires his players and allows his coaches to coach. And he's the guy who'd say he dictates the mentality of the team. There have been other coaches that have been that way. He's not a CEO coach. He's more of I don't want to say a rah-rah, but he's a guy who's done it. So you buy into what he says, but the coordinators make the plans on how we're going to attack, what we're going to do. I think he's going to put the guys together in the right spot. He will keep them mentally and emotionally invested in the season.
I agree with that. And see, and the thing about the Lions, and one of the reasons they lost to the Commanders, is they got slaughtered with injuries last year. It was unbelievable the way they were getting hit with defensive losses. The safe pick is going to be the Lions. I wonder if the Packers are going to steal it, though. I'll say the Lions, but I tell you, I want to say Packers.
Okay, all right.
But I'll say the Lions. I'll play it safe.
All right.
That way someone won't come back and go.
Well, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I did go bounce back and forth between Detroit and Green Bay, but the reason I went with Detroit is they play inside. They've got a really big advantage in that dome. Other teams got to come and play them there. Their schedule lines up pretty well. They're a team, I think Jared Goff is a great regular season quarterback. Mm-hmm. Let's put it that way. And I think in the dome, they can really throw up some points. What's going to be a problem is if they have to go on the road, if they have to play outside in the wintertime, that's where things start to change for them, especially with Goff at quarterback. Okay, so the NFC South, it's a down division overall, as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of stuff about it to not like. I know that you could say Atlanta's on the rise. I'm not in on Atlanta. I'm going to go with Tampa.
It's got to be the Bucs, right?
I'm going to go with Tampa again to win the South.
Yeah, I think Tampa has a chance to be better than they were even last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a pretty easy one to pick. I think
All right.
I mean the Saints are going to be bad.
You would
And-
think. You would
and
think. And
And the Panther? No, it's got to be the Bucks, right?
I would think so. I
Yeah.
would think so. So out west is where it gets interesting. You just brought up San Francisco. They could be coming back. I kind of feel like they're sliding backwards. I'm not so into them, and I think if they have a bad season, they're gonna end up changing coaches. He's got to turn things back around this year. I kind of feel like the Rams.
Wait, who's changing coaches?
If San Francisco has a bad season
Do you
again,
think they would change coaches?
I do. I think he
Whoa.
struggled too many times recently. I think that's going to wear thin. And if they really struggle this year, I think they'll change coaches at the end of the year.
Wow, that would be nuts to me, but that's me. That would be nuts.
Because I mean, where after a while it gets to a point where if you're not, and he's had a number of seasons that have not been the greatest. They've had very successful years. I believe San Francisco is going to be in a down year. They've got a lot of things missing right now, and I think you're counting on a Christian McCaffrey who just cannot stay healthy. I'm going to go with the Rams, but boy, all of that rides on Matthew Stafford making it through the year.
Well,
He
what's
didn't
his
play it
status?
down this summer.
What's his status?
He was back practicing full time just recently. They say he's a go for week 1.
It depends on Matthew Stafford.
It's his back. It's his back and how well his back holds up. They've got a really good team, though. They've got a lot of good players.
Oh, they do, but it depends on Matthew Stafford. What do you think about the Seahawks?
See, I'm not sold on them. The team I was really close with I thought Arizona. Arizona might be sneaky good.
Really?
Yeah,
I have not paid attention to them at all, so I am not qualified to even comment on the
They've
Cardinals.
got good wide receivers. Their
Yeah.
tight end, Trey McBride. I love Trey McBride. He's an excellent tight end. Kyler Murray is the big one. Well, small. Huge question.
I can't. Yeah, it's the quarterback again. I can't. I would say the Rams if you told me Stafford played the bulk of the games. But I'm very curious to see what the 49ers do. Well, I'll say I'm going with I'll go be with you. I know we're being boring here, but I'll say the Rams. I just can't. I can't go with the Cardinals because of the quarterback. I wonder about Seattle though. Seattle's roster is getting better. Yeah, I'll go with the Rams.
Okay. So we have 3 wild card teams to get in. I'll let you go first.
Oh God, you want to really get into this crap?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we did. We did it last year.
Jesus Christ, did we do this last year?
We did indeed.
We were probably terrible at this, right?
I had KC and Detroit in the Super Bowl, so I had one half of it right.
Well, I'm talking about the whole picture. But anyway, hey, who are you?
Well, I mean,
you go. You predict. I'm going to go. Well, do you think the Commanders are going to be in the playoffs again? Do you see another team coming out of the NFC East?
I might see 2 teams coming out of the NFC.
Oh, John.
What? I said I might.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant wild card. You mean wild card? Or
We're talking about wild card. Yeah.
Are you
Washington? I have Washington in. Yes. So.
And the other team's not Dallas.
I'm letting you do yours, please.
All right, you go. You make your predictions on the wild card first.
Oh, God damn it! I told you to go first. Okay, so Green
I
Bay.
haven't put any thought into this.
So Green Bay for sure, right? Because I mean, they were the ones that were next up.
Yeah, Green Bay.
It's really going to be close whether they win the North or Detroit wins the North. I have Detroit winning the North, and I already said why, because playing in the dome is a huge advantage to them. They can really I think it works great for them in the regular season. When it gets to be those one game and out kind of thing, they remind me of Detroit. Kind of reminds me of Dallas a number of years ago. You know, they'd have really good regular seasons, make the playoffs, and then lose in the playoffs. That's kind of the way Detroit's been. So I think they're going to win. I think Green Bay comes in as the wild card. I have Washington. Washington as the second wild card.
Here's your hard question: who comes in last place in the NFC North?
Chicago.
So you have no faith in their quarterback at all.
I have faith in the fact that Minnesota is pretty darn talented, even with McCarthy being a big question mark. Green Bay's really good. Detroit's really good. Chicago could have a much better year and still be last in the division.
What if McCarthy's not any good though?
That's a different story. But I'm thinking he'll be more than. I believe in the coach.
In the preseason, how did McCarthy play?
He was all right. He was all right. He was wasn't great, wasn't horrible.
I'm predicting the Vikings take a step back.
See, their coach is really good, no matter who he puts behind center. I think he can make McCarthy more. They can cover his deficiencies. They have a lot of talent, and it's hard to just come right after the quarterback. They can run, they can throw. They got a tight end. They got 2 wide receivers. They're a very talented group.
All right. So who are your wild
So
cards?
far I've got wild card Green Bay, Washington, and this is where it gets sticky. If the Giants get to 9, they're in. But I have them at 8. So I have them currently not in. But if they get to 9, they're in. If they stay at 8,
Just pick your team.
if they stay at 8, so the other wild card team that I have coming in is I am going to slide Arizona in as the third.
Arizona.
I have Arizona's third wild.
All right. Look, I'm throwing darts at a dartboard. Don't anyone hold me to this.
Jackson darts.
Jackson darts. Let me see. I will pick. I can't see anybody coming out of the South. Maybe the Falcons, but I don't think so. I'm guessing 2 teams come out of the North. I mean, not including the division winner. So we picked the Lions. So I'm going to say Packers are there.
Yep.
Do I dare to pick the Bears? I'm going to go with the Bears. I'm going to go with the Bears, and then I will go with the 49ers. No. Do I have to pick I don't think the Commanders make it.
Oh, so you're going 49ers instead of Washington. Okay. So you've got the Eagles only coming out of the East.
I think the NFC East is going to get whacked by the same schedule that we have. Every other team in the division's got the same opponents that we do, and they're all going to get whacked by that schedule. So I think that's why I'm leaning that. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to get better. I don't think the Giants are going to win enough games to get in the playoffs. And I think the Commanders could be one of those teams that comes back down to earth.
Could be.
What I don't know is the big wild card, no pun intended, to me is the 49ers. Do the 49ers rebound or not? And I tell you what, John, if the Giants were able to get 9 wins, but I'm not going there. You're not going to get me to go there this year. I'll go with that. I'll say the Bears. I have a hard time seeing McCarthy. I agree with you that the Vikings head coach is a miracle worker, but I have a hard time McCarthy getting that team into the playoffs with no. He's got no background yet. Again, he didn't play last year. He was off a year. He's got a lot to prove to me. I know he's got Jefferson. I get it, but I'm gonna go with the Packers, Bears, and the Bears to me are risky because of the quarterback. And I'll say the 49ers.
So when you look, here's why I say, if you're gonna use strength of schedule, you gotta be careful when you apply the logic elsewhere. The Bears' strength of schedule is pretty tough within its own division. Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit are all winning teams. They're all winning teams. They all have winning records. You play all of them. You were the worst team last year in your own division. I think even an improvement still makes them the worst team in the division, because I think all those other teams are really good. But the good thing about it is those teams are going to beat each other up. That's the other part about sneaking into playoffs, right? The Giants have gotten into the wild card before because other good teams, they're in a division that absolutely destroyed each other.
Right.
And that allowed you to get in. So for now, I will be honest. I originally had the Giants penciled in as 3.
I know you would have. I
did.
knew you were.
Because I actually think we're going to get to 9, but I'm going to hold at 8. I'm going to hold at 8 because I'll be happy.
Giants are not winning 9 games, John.
Okay.
And that's not me shitting on the Giants. The schedule matters. I know
it does matter, but but again, the schedule is not the schedule as the schedule when the schedule ends the year. Meaning one team, one bad thing changes everything. You can't predict that.
But the teams that, and I understand that argument. If people make it every year that this team the previous year doesn't mean anything. But the teams that the Giants are playing this year, to me, look like very good. Well,
is Dallas better? Is Dallas better?
No, I'm not talking about the NFC.
Hold on, let me finish. Is Dallas better?
No.
Okay. Is Washington better than they were last year per se?
That depends on the quarterback.
But at the moment you can't go, wow, they're really loaded. You're like
they improved their offensive line. They improved their offensive line. They got Tunsil. What version of Debo do we get? There was the fat pictures of him in camp.
Fat Debo.
Is he the fat guy, or does he? So
okay,
I don't know. I don't know.
Is Philadelphia better than they were last year?
I'm not talking about the division right now.
No. I'm gonna work my way across. Give me a second. Okay. I can't get every team in one shot. Is Philadelphia better than they were last year?
They might be.
How
But
can
I
they
don't
be
think so.
better
I
than
don't
last
think
year?
so, but they might be.
They won the Super Bowl. You can't get much better than that.
Yeah,
So
they can repeat and
so
be
they
just
could
as
they
hot.
they certainly could. But
Yeah.
so let's say that's status quo. Okay. Are the Saints a better team? No. We play the Saints. Are the Patriots necessarily better? They might be better,
Yeah.
but are they better than the Giants per se? I don't know that.
Where I'm coming from with this with the Giants is we can talk all about what we think they're going to be better, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But I'm like a lot of the negative Giants fans too, saying,
Yes, you are.
you got to prove it.
Yes.
And again, we've heard this stuff before. We've gotten our hopes up before. We're going to be like, yeah. No, I'm not falling into that trap again. Go into Washington, beat Washington. Go into Dallas, beat Dallas. Then we'll talk. So part of me, I know where you're going with.
No. I'm with you. But here's where I'm going to take what you just said, and I am absolutely going to flip the tables back on you. Did you or did you not just say the Bears would make the playoffs?
Yes. I said the Bears would make the playoffs.
What have they proven to you that says they're making the playoffs? They've been a bad team for the last few years. What have they proven to you?
That they got a lot of good offseason additions.
Oh, so they haven't done a goddamn thing on the field yet, but they're better. Minnesota is good. Green Bay's
John,
good.
I'm talking
Detroit's
to you
good.
as a Giants fan who's
I know you are, dude.
12
Dude.
years of shit. I am not. We've gone down this path before.
We have.
So I'm not going down that path before. You and I were on here last year talking about the Giants possibly winning 9 games. I'm not going down that path right now again. I'm not doing it.
Jeff, it was actually a mimosa, but that's okay. It is all gone now, though, so it's all good.
Just keep in mind when we're talking, John's been drinking, and I haven't.
But just to be clear, I did slide it out, and I put Arizona in. I do think the Giants are good. I have them at 8. 9, but I do think what's important is if the season starts the way you originally said, right? If they win those first 2 games, everything changes from there because where they need to win suddenly becomes a little less, we got to steal games. You took 2 on the road.
I think we still need to steal games.
I think you need to hold the one thing we have not done well. Well, we haven't won well anywhere, but one thing we have not done well, even in good years in the last 12, 13 years, we have not won at home consistently. We have been actually pretty poor at home.
We've been a train wreck at home.
Even in 2011, we were known as the Road Warriors.
We're terrible at home. All right, let me put it this way, John. Looking at the schedule right now, bring your schedule back up. Right, wait.
All
right, there's your schedule. Okay.
Yes.
As of August 31st, and this can change, but as of August 31st, which of these games will the Giants be favored to win?
Well, that's kind of hard because everything changes after week 1. So,
no, but
all right, so I see what you're saying. Straight right now,
right?
New Orleans,
Patriots?
maybe, but New Orleans is on the road, so you never know how that's going to go. Patriots for sure at home, or actually that's on the road. So Patriots. That's
a
Monday night one.
Anyway, we're not going to be favored to win any.
Home against the Cowboys. Home against the Cowboys will be favored now, knowing that Mike has been traded. We'll be home favorites against the Cowboys. At this moment, right now.
Right. So the question is, everyone who
but you hate gambling,
Giants fan who pulls up the schedule and they're like, "Oh my God, look at the Giants schedule." They all have the same reaction. They go like, "Oh my God, look at this schedule," and they say, "Where are the wins coming from?" Because they look at it from a bettor's perspective, like a point spread perspective, and they say, "Where, because they look at, the Giants aren't going to beat the Commanders because they think Jayden Daniels, NFC championship game participants, they're on the upswing. Not us, the prognosticators think that. Okay,
there you go.
They're not going to think the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to crush us. Chargers are going to crush us. The Eagles are going to sweep us. There's no way the Giants go into Denver and beat Denver. They still think the 49ers are going to rebound. Maybe the Giants have a shot at the Bears. They're not going to beat the Packers now. They're not going to beat the Lions. So that, again, I'm not trying to be a downer here. I'm just saying.
Sure. But let's look at
so it's not, even if we win the first 2 games, we've got to steal wins.
So if we get
7 wins, you got to steal wins.
If we get wins early, let's look later in the season. Giants, Patriots. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's assume the Giants, that's a game that we should win. Then you've got to bye. Now you got the Commanders coming home. If you stole that first game on the road, that's a game you should win. And by the way, we should win anyway. We're at home, and I don't believe the Commanders are heads above us. So now you've got the Vikings, a very questionable team that for you just a minute ago with JJ McCarthy.
No, leave you and me out of this.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying on the road a team that normally plays in a dome. It's a late season game. It's a young, untested quarterback. You're coming out and look at who before they'll have a game with Dallas and they follow it up with a game with Detroit. They got a lot on their mind. That's a stretch for the Giants right there. And then you throw a road trip into the Raiders. I don't believe in the Raiders at all. So that stretch right there, the Giants could finish. They could, if they're like,
even with the head coaching change with the Raiders, you don't think that matters?
I think you got to prove a lot to me with that Raiders team. There's a whole lot of empty spots on that team, and Geno Smith doesn't mean anything to me. He's just, we had him.
Again, we can go back and forth, but I will say, and that this part of the conversation by saying I have a hard time finding 7 wins on that. I'm going to go with 7 wins, but I have a hard time if you say, well, where are the 7 wins, Eric? I have a hard time right now. I got to assume the Giants sweep the Cowboys, at least split with the Commanders, but hopefully sweep the Commanders. And then they beat somebody like the Saints and they beat the Patriots and then they steal a win someplace. But again, that schedule's a bitch. I wish we didn't have that schedule this year. I think well, I'll leave it at that. We've beaten the schedule to death. Should we finish the division stuff?
Well, we already, so we're good with the NFC for now. We'll come back to the who comes out of the NFC afterwards.
Okay.
AFC.
Let's do this fast. Yeah.
AFC East.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
I still got for those poor Bills. They'll win it again, and they'll get knocked out in the playoffs by the Kansas City Chiefs. It's those poor Bill fans, but I got to say the Bills.
And would you say overall that division actually seems, if everybody else seems to kind of be backwards? Miami, you don't know what you get with Miami.
Miami's weird. That's a weird situation.
The Jets with their quarterback play and stuff, that's a team I'm not overly thinking a whole lot about.
But they are a good team. I tell you, if the Jets had a quarterback, that would be a much better team. They're built well in the lines.
We'll see. They've yet to prove it on the field. Even with a rah-rah head coach, they weren't able to get it done.
And the head coach is an unknown. Yeah, but right. Sorry, let's do this fast. Bills.
So I went with the Bills as well. North.
Ravens, right?
I'm going with Cincinnati.
They have no defense. I can't.
They have enough defense. They got Hendrickson back. I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I think the Ravens are overrated. I think the Bengals they're going to turn things around. They have their offense could put up 40 in a lot of games.
All right, I'm going with Ravens.
Okay. All right. I'll make sure. All right. South, which is a really bad division.
Boy. Oh my goodness. Holy crap. I guess Texans. I mean, I can't go with any of the other teams. Texans.
I went with Jacksonville. I went with Jacksonville. I think it's so bad, but if Trevor Lawrence can even be remotely what he was supposed to be, they have a decent amount of talent.
He's not.
But Indianapolis with Daniel Jones, I don't believe that at all. Houston has so many issues right now. They're a team that could be really, really good, or they could fall flat. I just have a feeling Jacksonville steals some games and gets in there.
Okay. And then what other division?
And in the West.
Oh my. Chiefs, because they are who they are, but that division's low.
It was close. I went with the Chiefs. But man,
Denver's intriguing.
And then you got that home
Denver's
field.
defense could be insanely good.
And I think Bone
Chargers got a bad injury in the preseason. They lost their lineman, didn't they?
Rashawn Slater, I believe.
Yeah, they lost. That was a big loss for them. But their quarterback situation. How good is he? Is he? That's another discussion for another day. There are times when he looks good, and there are times where you're like overrated. So all right. So we got that. So you want to go? So you want
wild cards real quick? I'll throw mine out there, make it easier for you. I went Denver, Baltimore, and I actually have Pittsburgh coming in because I think they're going to sneak. I think the West, out West, it's going to be Kansas City and Denver are going to beat up on the other teams. The South is basically it's a one-team piece. The East is going to be a one-team piece. So then I actually had guys coming out of the North. I think Pittsburgh's going to sneak in because they will win the games they're supposed to win. And I think they'll win just enough. So I got 3 from the AFC North making the playoffs.
Yeah, Broncos. Bengals. The Steelers are tough because of the quarterback. I'll go with do I have 3 teams come out of the North? I'll just say Steelers. I'll say
Yeah.
Steelers.
All right. So then Super Bowl. Who's the matchup? I don't even care who wins. Who's the matchup?
Of course you care who wins.
I mean, I do, but I don't want to put pressure on you.
Do the Chiefs get back there again? I want to go with the Bills, but I don't think the Bills can get past the Chiefs. The question is, because I have the Ravens winning the division, can the Ravens? But their quarterback again doesn't do it in the playoffs for me. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs again. I know that's boring, but they got Patrick Mahomes, and that defense has been playing well. So
yeah,
they didn't in the Super Bowl, but they against the Eagles. But that defense has carried them.
I'm gonna give it to the Lions from the NFC. I think they finally get in there, and I think they're gonna play the Bills, and I think the Bills finally win their Super Bowl.
I think the Eagles repeat. I hate to say it.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow!
Who in the NFC? I mean, I don't see the Lions. To me, the Lions are I'm 57. The Lions have always been the Lions until they prove otherwise. To me, they'll break the heart. The same with the Bills. They'll break the hearts of their fans until proven otherwise. To me, so I'd love the Lions or the Bills to be there because I feel bad for their fans. But
so final things for as far as the Giants go. You project seven wins. I gave them 8. I do think that they have a possibility of doing other stuff. I think people overreact to the schedule piece quite a bit, because it's going to, within 5 weeks, that's going to change. The reason it's going to change, somebody's going to lose somebody. And by the way, it could very well be the Giants. I mean, the Giants could have one of their best players go down. I hate to say that. It can happen to any team. But something's going to happen that one team that everybody's counting on is just not going to be. It happens every year. Every year, one of the last place teams jumps back up into it and is part of the discussion of playoffs or even winning their division. It happens every year because every year is so different in the NFL. So much goes into it. I do think that some of the consistently good teams over the last few years will stay that way, but there are a couple. Washington is a big one that is razor thin as far as one guy will change the entire the complexity of the team. If Jaden Daniels gets injured, Washington they can't turn to be a running game. They're not going to bring their backup quarterback in and suddenly it's completely changed. At least for the Giants for once, if something happens to Russell Wilson, we do have 2 other quarterbacks that can come in and play.
Right. And Tommy DeVito's making commercials. Did you see that?
Oh my God.
Did you see? How does Tommy DeVito have a commercial?
Did
you see that?
His agent is you got to give it to that guy. First off,
how the hell does he have a commercial?
How would you pick that dude as your agent? I don't know. It seemed like a natural fit between the two of them. I mean, literally, he could be like a distant family member.
I'm going with 7 wins. I'm hopeful that they can get to 7 wins. If they get more than that, I'll be thrilled this year. I think they're going to be a much better team. I think the story of this season is the previous few years. The story of this season is when would the Giants finally turn the page on Daniel Jones? And it was like, oh my God, get rid of Daniel Jones, get rid of Daniel Jones. Of course, the fly in the ointment, if you will, in a weird way, was the playoff team of 2022, which encouraged him to stay even longer. We thought he was gone going into that year because they didn't pick up they didn't pick up the option. He wins. I still got people on X arguing with me, going, he got a fair. He's a good quarterback. He didn't get a fair shake here. I'm like, oh my God, stop! It's a cult. Stop with
what constitutes a fair shake, by the way.
But now I think the story of this season is going to be when does Jackson Dart become the guy? Because the sooner he becomes the guy, I feel like we're finally sort of like on the path to redemption, on the path to getting out of this. Hopefully Jackson is what he looks like, but I think the story of this year is going to be like when do the Giants make that change and set themselves up for 2026? So in a way, as weird as this sounds, because I'm actually kind of looking forward to this season because I'm kind of curious, but this feels like almost another throwaway season a little bit to me. Like we're waiting. Really, I kind of wish we could fast forward to 2026 a little bit here, because I think that's when things get interesting. When Jackson's the quarterback, he's got Malik Neighbors and the other wide receiver we get in the offseason, whoever that would be. The offensive line gets a little bit better. The defense is what it is and is maturing into hopefully what we think it is. But I feel like we're kind of treading water in a good way, not a bad way. The bad way was with Daniel Jones. The good way is like, well, we know we got the guy. When do we pull the Band-Aid off and finally just put him in there? That to me is the story.
Since we have the guy, at least we believe we do. True culture is built on the field.
Winning.
They have to win some games. Okay, this isn't the same as saying they have to win some games and it's like late in the season and then rolling it all back with the same guys the next year. It doesn't matter. Jackson Dart is eventually going to be the starter of this team. We know that. Whether that's eventually this year or it is next year, it seems pretty obvious he is destined to be the starting quarterback. You've got a number of players that are going to be their foundation players for next year. Burns, Thibodeau will be there unless we trade him because we already picked up his 5th-year option. So Carter, you're talking about the bulk of our secondary is all guys that we're building that'll be there next year. So there's a lot of guys on this team. They've got to start winning. We've got a bunch of these guys have nothing but losses in the NFL.
Well, they got to win to keep the coaching staff too.
Well, there is that. See, that's the weird one. How much do they actually have to win to guarantee that Daboll comes back?
Well, they can't lose the locker room. If they lose the locker room, so if the team just, and I've argued this point that you can't fire Daboll at this point because he picked Dart. Because if you do, then why did you allow him to pick Dart? But at the same time, if he completely loses the locker room and nobody respects him, then you got to make a change. So I'm agreeing with you in this sense. They've got to win some in order for the players to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. If they say, you know what, we're not winning still, but we can see the pathway forward. Right. But if we're like 3 or 2 wins and we're getting blown out by teams like crazy, then all bets are off, at that point to me. But again, that's puts you in a really, really awkward position because then Dart's there, but the new coaches, the guy might not want Dart, or any prospective new coach might not want Dart. So that's what the odd situation we're in. So the nightmare situation for the Giants would be Dart. They fire Daboll. He stinks. The defensive coordinator stinks. The defensive coordinator may get Daboll fired too. That's the other thing. Shane Bowen, he picked Wink and he picked Shane. And if both those guys failed here, that would be a big part of Daboll getting fired, I would think too. But the worst case scenario is Daboll gets fired, and then new coaches that you might be interested in don't want to have anything to do with Dart. That would be the worst case scenario for the Giants. I'm not predicting that. I'm saying that's why winning does matter. I'm agreeing with you that they have to win to prevent that scenario.
The question will become what in their mind is the natural progression, i.e. transition plan. Is it the KC model of Alex Smith starts the entire year, you drop Mahomes in the last game of the season, and we plan to play him next year? Or is it the Eli model, which is 9 games into it, we're 5-4, but our offense is struggling. We're starting to go backwards. It's time to play that guy, and we're going to play him. I think if that were the case, if the Giants are 5-4 and they put Jackson Dart in, that tells you all you need to know about what guarantees that Daboll has about coming back. If he doesn't think he has that guarantee, he's not risking making that switch. He's going to keep going until the losses outnumber the wins, and then he makes the move.
The Giants are not going to be 5-4. I'll make that prediction right now. I know you don't.
I don't know. I was using that as the exact example.
To me, the great unknown of this upcoming season is when and if Jackson Dart becomes a starting quarterback, and I have no clue I don't know what's in. I think Dable loves Dart, so that makes me think sooner than later. But do they want to? It's what I said before in the previous podcast. I think they've handled him perfectly, and do they want to now take the big risk and throw him in there, or do they want to play it safe? So, and I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this goes. I think in a lot of ways the decision might be made for them depending on how Russell Wilson plays. If Russell Wilson plays great, you do run the risk of losing the locker room at that point with the players going, hey, you know, we like Dart too, but what the hell are you doing? You know, why are you changing quarterbacks? We're in this and Wilson's playing really, really well or fairly well. What, you know, Dexter Lawrence hasn't won here except for 2022. Dexter Lawrence wants to win. Andrew Thomas wants to win. There are players on this team that are tired of this. And it's not just the fans that are tired of this. So they've got to be a little bit careful too, that they can't see. Tom Coughlin could do that because he was a rookie head coach and he had gravitas.
And Eli was a number 1 draft pick in the draft.
Right. So I mean, it was a different situation. So I think a lot of ways the decision will be made for him. I think the guy who's under a tremendous amount of pressure here is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's got to know that the vultures are circling, that he's almost got to play well every week, so not to give any justification for people who are going to say, where the heck is Jackson Dart? So it's going to be interesting to see how Russell Wilson handles this. And then if Russell Wilson gets benched, is he going to throw a hissy fit? Is he going to be like, screw this? I'm not playing good soldier at this point. He's not Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's just thrilled to be there. I think Russell Wilson's got a lot of pride. So if you bench Russell Wilson before the trade deadline, you might want to trade Russell Wilson.
Well, I mean, and I was thinking that. I was like, do I want to say this? I mean, if a team, again, Super Bowl aspirations, loses their guy, Russell is the one quarterback very tradable because you're not buying into anything long term. You're basically renting him for a season. So if you're a Super Bowl team or aspirations of Super Bowl and you lose your quarterback, you might go, all right, we'll take him on just so to go for the rest of this year. And the Giants, what have you given up? You've got your guy that you want to play anyway. If it all depends. I don't see that happening. Number one, I just
well, let me put it this way. All right. The trade deadline's usually at the end of October, right? It's usually, I don't know when it is this year, but I think it's usually near the end of October. So say you play Dart.
Yep.
You can't go back to Wilson, right?
Correct. You cannot.
So then why would you keep Wilson on the roster at that point if you got Jameis Winston there? That's why I think they wanted Tommy DeVito on the practice squad, by the way, too. Still, they wanted to resign him to the practice squad. So I'm almost thinking that one of their scenarios could be, you know what, if we have to play Dart before the trade deadline, it doesn't make sense to keep Wilson on this team. I'd get rid of him in order to prevent a problem. In other words, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I got you. So the trade deadline is November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th.
Which would be, let's look at the games again here. So, you don't have the dates here.
Saints are the October 5th. If you throw it back up there.
Oh, it's right before the 49ers.
Yes.
It's after the Eagles.
So.
It's after the Eagles. All right, that would be my not crazy. I don't think it's crazy. My you heard it here first prediction. Probably other people have said it someplace. Is if things don't go well and let me put it this way. If Dart ends up playing sooner than later, they're going to trade Wilson. That's my prediction. Because at that point, you're trying to prevent a locker room issue at that point. And you have Jameis still as your backup. And ideally, you'd want Tommy still around. But then you bring in Tim Boyle or somebody on the practice squad. Somebody who's been here before at that point. That's my you heard it here first prediction. Russell Wilson might get traded by the deadline.
The bad part about trying to trade him is you're assuming he's not playing well. And if he's not playing well, who the hell's going to want him? So it doesn't even have to be not well. It's just they want to go with Dart. The records,
it gets to the point where, say they're, again, I don't know what it would be at the trade deadline. How many games do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Say we're 2-6, but Russell Wilson has been playing all right. Whatever reason, just say we're 3-5, 2-6, and you're saying, what are we playing Wilson at this point for? We need to get ready for next year when Dart's going to be the starter. Let's make the switch now. The Eli Kurt Warner scenario, except it's not a winning record. So, or they release him, or they release him again. Because if you're right, why is Wilson even on the roster at that point?
Yeah, first off, I don't see that scenario playing out. I think if anything, it's going to be, when I asked the question to Cy the other day, is it offense or is it the record that will drive whether or not Dart comes in or doesn't come in? And he said it was the offense, not the record, but the offense. I have a feeling it's going to be more record. If the offense is struggling and we're winning, but if it's struggling, like it's not like Wilson's throwing, he's not turning the ball over a bunch of times. They're just not scoring a ton of points. But our defense is playing pretty well, and we're in games. And again, let's say we're 4-5. You use 3. You use 3-5. So I'll go 9 games, 4-5. If you're at 9, if you're halfway through the season, and you are 500 or just under 500, do you make the switch? Maybe. But if you are 2-6, 2-7, you absolutely make the switch. You absolutely make.
So why would you keep Wilson? But why would you keep Wilson around then?
Well, at that point, what are you going to trade him for?
And if you cut him,
and if you release him, you do look like exactly what you did last year. So I think from a locker room standpoint, I got to assume that Russell Wilson knows what he's there for, and I'm going to assume that some things have already been laid out for him. It's weird. It's a weird scenario. Obviously you don't want that to happen. You don't want it to happen. You want him to go as far as he can get into the season before Dart plays. Huge thank you to Joseph. I just think that Russell Wilson will be benched if he struggles. If he's the reason the offense is not going, then he gets benched. Now, do you cut him? Maybe. But by the way, then you're down to 2 quarterbacks, and you potentially look bad in your locker room for releasing a guy who's been very pro team. So, and
but he might not be pro team once he's lost his job to Jackson Dart.
He might not be, but let's also be honest. He wanted to be in New York. I think he wanted to be in New York a couple of years ago, and I don't think it's all about playing. But I don't think it's all about playing. I don't think it's all about playing football, though.
I'm just saying, just keep an eye on. Thank you. We have a
that's why I said a big thank you. But yeah, please put it up there too.
Yeah. I'm just saying keep an eye out for that.
Oh, sure.
I'm just saying, at some point because in a way you have to tell the team it's time. It's Jackson Dart's team now. It's not going to be Russell Wilson. He's not coming back. We've turned the page, and so actually, the more I think of it, the more I'm talking myself into it a little bit here.
This is a better question. What happens if Russell Wilson's having a really good year?
I saw that posted, and I brought that up like a month ago on the podcast. I said that would be because I was joking because Mara would then say, we're going to re-sign him to a 3-year deal. I don't care. I mean, they got to get rid of him. I mean, Mara. What makes me worried is Mara. Going, we got to resign.
I don't think they would do that. I think Dart is. They already know Dart's their guy. And you're not gonna Russell Wilson. They hold. It was different because of Daniel Jones because they goddamn drafted him, and it was like you were cutting one of their kids.
They resigned a guy that they had to dumb down the offense for and gave him $60 million. I
agree.
Well, John.
But he was their guy. That's what I'm saying is Russell Wilson is just they rented him. It's not Saquon Barkley, and he's going to lose sleep over that. They've already got Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is their baby. They're waiting. They can't wait to show it off to the world.
I hope.
I don't buy that. Mara would do that. I don't buy that.
I don't expect it. I'm always a Giants fan. I live and die with them winning and losing. But in a way, it's almost like, again, let's just get to 2026 and you know,
Yeah,
you
I
almost don't want them to
I
screw
know.
something up. Like,
I like seasons build upon seasons. The 1986 season didn't happen because of 1986. It happened because of 1984 or 1985. You lead into it. You have to, those things have to happen for you to ascend. Or you become the Giants of 22, where you surprise people, came out of nowhere, and then you fall flat 23, 24. We have to start building and ascending, and it requires the blocks to happen. It's a little different than the past because you have free agency, you have other stuff, salary cap. There was none of that stuff in the 80s. So, because, I mean, if you look back on it, right, Phil Simms very easily could be the Daniel Jones of the Giants for a number of years before that. At some point, if there was a free agency and salary caps back then, Simms probably already would have been gone.
oh yeah,
He was injured so often and so many things happened. That's a different era. This is a different era now, but you still got to build to win. You made a great point a minute ago. Dexter Lawrence has not won. Darius Slayton has not won. None of the guys since 22, other than that one season, have won. We have a bunch of guys. They are losing record players. And that's where you start to where you overvalue good players and you go, well, what do we care? We haven't won anything. You can't just get rid of everybody. I get that. But you haven't won anything with these guys. At some point, you have to start winning some games and you have to be close to win, really battle tough games.
But what's your point?
My point is you can't just fast forward to another year and go, oh, we'll just jump the next year. That has to do something next year. It has to start this year, and they have to win.
Right, but I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying.
Well, you're like, let's fast forward. Let's not have bad things happen. If you do that,
no,
you're not building anything.
In a way, you don't want Mira to do something stupid again. Because what Don was saying.
Well, you said that about Russell.
So what Don's saying, it's Brian Daboll's quarterback. The problem is what we will never know the answer to is, did Brian Daboll sign off on Daniel Jones coming back? I don't get the vibe that Brian Daboll, that Daniel Jones was Brian Daboll's guy. I don't get that vibe because Brian Daboll looks like a completely different person now. He's acting like a completely different person. The narrative is all three guys signed on Daniel Jones coming back here. They all signed off on it. They were all fine. They all were in on it. I don't know if I agree with that. So if I'm right, that means Brian Daboll was forced to do something he didn't want to do.
But
we'll never know the answer.
You're right. And you know how I feel about that. I feel that was all about Saquon Barkley and not about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was the way they were able to get Saquon Barkley back on the team. That was it. Barkley was not going to take their deal. They were not going to give him the money that he wanted, and they had to do something it was either franchise Jones.
But that doesn't make any sense. I know what you're saying, but that's so I'm not calling you stupid.
No,
that's what the Giants were doing. That is so fucking stupid.
Agreed.
It's beyond belief.
But I don't think it was about Daniel Jones.
You're committing yourself to $160 million at a quarterback, and people go, it was only a 2-year deal. It's bullshit. It was $160 million.
The money was still.
They're lucky. Yeah. They're lucky they didn't clean house again. You know how many people Daniel Jones got fired? And again, it's not really Daniel Jones's fault because the organization did it to themselves. But he got GMs fired, he got head coaches fired, and in a way, Shane and Daboll are lucky they weren't victims of that too. So the question is did ownership say we got to have Barkley and Daniel Jones back? Now you're arguing
I think that's 100%.
That to get Barkley back, they had to get Daniel Jones. I don't buy that. I know what your argument is, but they could have franchised Barkley and let Daniel walk.
Right, but that's my point though. They weren't going to get rid of both players, and they weren't going to give the money to Barkley that he wanted. That was obvious. The only way to get it done for them, again, I think it's stupid, by the way.
And they should have traded Barkley at the trade deadline if they were going to do this. That's what's so goddamn stupid.
And that's the part that creates America.
They must have known at some point that Barkley wasn't part of their future. And if you felt that way, why didn't you trade him before the trade deadline?
So and
prevented him from going to Philadelphia in the first place.
So let's put that in a box because that is old news. We are on the go forward,
but it affects what the question is, and I don't think the Giants.
It was Russell Wilson that we started.
But the question was, what happens if Wilson has a playoff season? What do the Giants do then? I'm saying a smart organization just lets Wilson walk. Hopefully he signs a huge contract and you get a comp pick for him.
Agreed.
And
So my point to that, and maybe I saw the question wrong, is I thought the question was about for the season, not.
Oh,
for
maybe I saw it wrong.
No. You could be right, and I might have read it wrong. I thought it was for the season, not for next year. There's no way, in my opinion, that you can bring back Russell Wilson next year. Period. Jackson Dart is the guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. But Andrew, this question came up in the website this week too. Somebody said, that is, and I brought it up like a month ago too. It's like a ha. What if if that happened? It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Giants win 9 games, sneak into the playoffs, win a playoff game. Which is exactly what happened when they said, "Hey, we're going to bring Daniel Jones back." So that's why. So again, John has said, "Well, why are we talking about this?" I'm just saying this freaking team has done this before, and I get it. They were more invested in Daniel than they were Wilson. That's why hopefully they wouldn't do that. And they have Dart, and they would hopefully say, we do have to turn the page. I'm just, part of me, again, has got PTSD from the whole Daniel Jones thing, because I still don't know what the hell that was. Oh, I know what it was about, but it didn't make any sense. They dumbed down the offense for this clown. They change everything because he can't handle it. But they give him $160 million in the offseason, and then they trade the running back away. And guess what? They learn right away. He can't handle an expanded offense. Remember Joe Shane's famous or infamous quote? We're going to find out. He basically said, we're going to find out if Daniel Jones can sink or swim without Saquon Barkley. What was that quote he said? You know what I'm talking about? He said, we're not paying Daniel to hand off to Saquon.
Yeah, we're not paying. I think we're not paying a quarterback $42 million to hand off to a $12 million running back or something like that.
Yeah. So, and guess what they found? They cut him. They cut him months later. That's how bad that backfired.
You paid $42 million for a $2 million quarterback is what you did. And then we handed it off to a 5th round running back. The Kansas City Chiefs were 10-6 in 2017, made the playoffs, lost in a wild card game. That was the year that Patrick Mahomes got the 1 start at the absolute end of the year. So a team that was going into the playoffs, even though Alex Smith got them to the 9 wins, 10 with Mahomes winning the last game of the season and getting into playoffs, but they did lose. The team was already set up to be Mahomes' team next year. I think the Giants at the very least will follow that model. I think they've mentioned the Kansas City model. They've mentioned it more than once, that seems to be already in mind. I cannot see Russell Wilson coming back, and I will gladly come on here and fully admit how unbelievably stupid the team is and how wrong I was if that's the case. I don't care. Unless Russell Wilson is the league MVP, there's no way you even think about bringing that dude back. Just because Jackson Dart, look at how the entire team reacted to Dart playing in the preseason already. They all know. And the
I
team,
hope they know. I hope that's what I hope.
And it's not a veteran team.
I wonder what the players actually think about the quarterback situation. I wonder if they are all in on Russell Wilson for this year, or in the back of their minds, they're kind of like, I kind of want to see what this would be like with Jackson. And then we don't know the answer to that. And maybe different people feel different ways in the locker room. There may be some wide receivers and some offensive linemen, some defensive players who are like, we better keep Russell Wilson. He's the veteran. We want to keep, we want to stick with him. And there are other people going, you know what? Jackson's pretty darn good, and I want to see him. So I don't know what that is. But that, in a lot of ways, will determine what the mentality of the locker room is, and gets back to my point that maybe it would best just to remove Russell Wilson from the equation once he loses his job, and just so you get rid of that distraction. But but that, I already made my point on that. You don't agree with that?
I don't know. I mean, my thought was more like, then you're down to Dart and Winston. You don't have DeVito in your back pocket as your 3rd quarterback. You don't.
Right, but if you lose Dart and Winston at that point, and Tim Boyle's your 3rd quarterback, it's over anyways.
It depends on how the locker room feels about Russell Wilson too. That's a big. We cannot discount what some of the other players think of him, and I think the way he's come in, he's certainly done everything possible to win that sort of mentality of we're a team together. And he's shown, the good thing is he's shown a lot with a rookie quarterback. He could have come in and been like, I'm the starter. I want nothing to do with that. Jameis could have been the coddling guy with the rookie, but that's not how it's been. So I'll give him credit for that, because he was considered very aloof in Denver. He had his own office in Denver. He did not sit with the guys on the plane. There was a lot of stuff about him that really went the wrong way in Denver.
Right.
And I think he's done a lot to try to change that narrative.
Right. But we have to see what he's like once he gets benched. So has Russell Wilson ever been benched in his seat? Has Russell Wilson ever been benched? I don't think so, right? Denver.
Denver, I believe. Yeah.
And that didn't end, but I don't know enough about what happened in Denver for me to comment. I'd be spitballing if I start talking about that. So my question is, would he play good soldier at that point? Or at that point, does he sort of distance himself from the team and he's more going to New York, Manhattan with his wife, and, I'm just doing my own thing, and I don't care about the team. So anyway, that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we probably should wrap this up.
So so we've got it. We've got all our stuff down there. We'll be ridiculed later for sure.
I think we pick safe picks.
No,
I
listen.
I don't think we took chances.
I was going to lean a little bit in a different direction, because I'm looking across the rest of the league, not just the Giants. That's the other thing too. Is I am looking at how other teams, how things have fallen. If you really pay attention and take the Giants out of it, if you're look at another team, like you brought up Chicago. If you look at it, it just takes a couple of things with some other teams where all of a sudden that team slides up because they just need to be a little bit better. Some of where their games fall and all. That's how surprise teams come out of nowhere every year.
Well, John, let me put it this way: what if the Giants this year were playing the NFC South and the shoot? I just lost it. Wait a minute.
How about the AFC South?
Right. What if they were? I mean, then you're telling me 9 wins, and I'm like, yeah, I can see them winning 9 wins. That's how I see schedule matter.
Sure, I see that, but I mean, and I get that, but you could also you turn it around and you say, now this year we've already done this to point out these are teams that we think are falling. Again, I'm thinking of it based on where they are this year. I don't care what their record was last year. I think New Orleans is even worse than they were last year. I don't really know what New Orleans is doing, to be quite frank. And then you've got a team like Carolina. Where are they at? Like, Bryce Young's your quarterback. You traded Thielen back to Minnesota. You're going young at wide receiver, and that's fine. But who's your big time players? Where you haven't won anything in years. And then you've got a team, Atlanta. Again, why the hell did you keep Kirk Cousins as your backup quarterback for all the money you paid him? It seems a really weird situation of what they're doing.
Well, he may get traded at some point still too. So, but I'm just saying, I wish we were playing the NFC South this year, and it's just too bad that because there is a chance that this team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We talked that to death. So I think the schedule matters. I think it's going to create. I hope Giants fans understand, and I think they do, that this team may be better, but the record may not be great.
So coming up this week, we'll begin our coverage of the Giants Commanders game. We will do one right before, and we haven't decided when. It'll either be prior to me going to Washington, or I'll do it from the hotel in Washington. But I think we want to wait to know who's playing and who's not playing, or at least who looks like they're going to be playing.
Is Andrew Thomas playing? Is Theo Johnson?
That's a big, lots of questions there. And then the big question to me, big question to you, who's the backup quarterback on the road? There's no fan pressure. I'm thinking if the Giants really believe it's Jackson Dart, he will be the backup quarterback. If they don't want to play him, they really want to keep that buffer and they don't want to have to play him, then Winston will be the backup quarterback.
And does Dable keep that under wraps until game time? Probably. Right.
And do you think, and we could talk about it during the week, do they have 3 quarterbacks active for game day?
Oh God, I wouldn't do that. But
because if it's the emergency, he can only play if the other 2 are hurt.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be, we'll talk about that later. That's a whole other conversation.
So with that, we will be doing a lot this week. So pay attention, like, subscribe. I mean, it's been going great. Had a lot of fun with it. But Yeah, no, no. To be frank, Eric didn't know I was going to DC until just recently, so it's not like we planned
Oh,
ahead
it's
of
not
time.
just that. People ask me all the time, come up to the game. I can't go up to a game. I run a website. I can't go anywhere anymore. The one thing BBI has done is guarantee that I can't go to games live anymore because I have to update the website. So I can't do it anymore. Even though it's right there, right up the road, I can't do it. So I get in trouble anyways. I can't keep my mouth shut. So the last two times I was at a DC at the Redskins, and they were the Redskins then, I was fortunate enough to be on the sidelines, on the Giants sideline, standing there. I actually got hit on one game where I was watching the kick returner go up the field, and I was watching the kick returner. I was not watching the other guys, and the Redskin and the Giant who were blocking each other ran right into me, knocked me on my ass on the sideline. I had this huge bruise on my thigh, and I got up and I was like, yeah. Because the adrenaline was going. I was all fired up, and the next day I was like, God, that hurts. But anyways, but the reason I'm bringing this up is you turn around and everyone talks about the Eagles, and the Redskin fans or Commander fans are pretty tame, but there's always fights in the stands. So you be careful, John. Don't
Yeah.
Up.
The good thing is I'm going to be much lower. Usually the fights happen in the second and third tiers. They don't happen closer to the field because it costs.
I saw some in the lower tiers too.
That's
they
true.
were pretty cool because even the players, it was funny. Even the players would turn around and start looking at some of the fighting. It was kind of funny. So
the good thing is that one, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of going to games in person for that very reason. I don't like being surrounded by drunken idiots who just want to start shit. I'm there. I'm very invested in what's happening.
Right.
I don't even like being bothered when I'm watching it. It's really bad. When I watch on TV, I don't like to be bothered. So, but my wife and I are going together. I've never been to DC, so we are going to kind of tour around and see some stuff in DC and stuff. So that'll be fun. And then same with Dallas the following week. I've never been to Dallas before. So other than, stopping at the airport real quick, heading somewhere else. So it'll be fun to kind of look around and go to that game, but I'll be down in can't remember which end zone it is. I'll be on the Giants side of it, in the end zone. I believe it's TV wise, it'll be left to right. So I'm going to be on the left end.
Well, the good news is that it used to get a heavy contingent of Giants fans in Washington home games. I don't know if that's going to be the case now with everybody in Washington that this fired up about the Commanders. I'd be very curious when I talk to you after the game, how many Giants fans you see in the stands, because there used to be tons of Giants fans. I mean, when I say tons, you could see like almost a fifth or a sixth of the stadium filled with Giants fans, which was kind of cool. You'd see blue, and it'd be like, oh, this is awesome. So, but I don't know if that's going to be the case this year.
I'm supposed to be meeting up with some of the New York Rush guys. I'm going to meet them before heading into the stadium and stuff. So, so it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. But there we go. There's our predictions. Yeah. Eric has 7. I have 8. We'll see what happens from there.
You want to get the 9, though.
Listen. I'll be psyched. I'll be psyched if they got the 9. But I'll go with the 8. I want them to be very respectable in the division. That's the part that's been really bad. We've been getting the crap kicked out of us by division foes for so long. I mean, and it's time to change that narrative. And first 2 weeks on the road against division opponents are going to be very telling on how much better this team is.
Yeah. So. And I think they got to steal some wins here to get to 7. So I'm 7's my optimistic prediction right now. So, but let's see. It's Russell Wilson who's going to depend. I think how well he plays will tell us a lot. If he comes out and he's playing really well early on, then that 7 is very doable to me, and maybe they can squeeze out another win. So, anyways,
all right. Well, there we go. We go. So with that, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll catch you guys early this coming week. And hey, happy holiday weekend, and enjoy tomorrow.